Okay, so let's get one thing straight. Working long hours, having responsibilities, and not making fitness your number one priority doesn't mean that you can't get in shape, right? But what it does mean is that you have to be more intentional with your time. You have to have a clear roadmap and a structure and understanding of what you're doing, or you're simply going to go around in circles, right? And you're not even going to make any progress whatsoever. And that's probably the reason why you guys have clicked on this video. And today I'm going to sort of break through that and give you guys an understanding on how to go about fixing that, okay? So a lot of the time, guys will like to overcomplicate it. And before they've even started taking action, they've built up these unrealistic expectations of what getting in shape whilst, working long hours, running a business, and having like additional responsibilities is actually going to require. And a lot of the time, that battle is harder than the actual journey of just taking care of yourself in the first place. Or you convince yourself it's so difficult and it's something that needs to take so much of your time and energy. But when you do it correctly and you find something that works with you instead of working against you, you start to find your time and energy will actually be tripled. You'll have all those things back, you'll be more productive, and everything will improve as a result of taking care of yourself. Okay, so the first thing that I will say is that any limiting belief you have of thinking that you're not good enough, it can't happen to you, you don't have what it takes, any ridiculous excuse or limiting belief that you may have built up in your own mind, drop that right now. Because you're already taking care of your family, right? You're disciplined in your career, you're working hard, you can stay consistent, you have everything that it actually requires to get in shape. And I'm going to argue that getting in shape is a lot easier than doing what you've accomplished already. So remove any limiting belief you have because you've already done it. You already have the skills, you already have the characteristics. It's just the right structure and the right direction in which to take your energy and your time, right, and implementing that. And when you do that consistently, just like your career, it evolves over time and you get better and better and better. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. Drop any limiting belief you have, right? Hopefully it's just been destroyed because understand you're already doing more and you already have an ambitious mindset and you're already moving forward and doing more than 99% of people. So understand that. And something else a lot of guys tell themselves is that they need to wait for the perfect time. The perfect time to take action, the perfect, time in their day to actually hit the workout. All of these things, everything is always, sort of a reason for why you shouldn't take action, a reason holding you back for why you can't get it done. But you have to understand that fitness, right, is not about perfection. It's about consistency, right? And consistently showing up, 20 minutes here and there, 30 minutes here and there, 3 to 4 times a week. As long as you're training with progressive overload and you're training intensely, you can do that 3 to 4 times a week, even 2 to 3 times a week, right? And still make great progress. So it doesn't take long, right? It's a big misconception that you need to spend hours in the gym, that you need to make it your entire lifestyle to make progress. And it's not that. You can already show up for yourself for 20, 30 minutes here and there. It's just about the choices that you make when you have the time. It's instead of the scrolling. It's instead of the procrastinating, right? It's when you have these slots, you need to think, right, with a growth mindset and actually plan ahead in advance for when you're going to get those gym sessions in or those training sessions in. Because if you don't plan, it doesn't happen. So 20 minutes here and there is all you really need. And this goes for, breaks you have during the day as well. Work breaks, lunch breaks, whatever break that you have where you're not solidly working or doing deep work, you can go on a walk. You can do something productive, do a mobility routine, do some stretches. Something that's going to benefit your health and make a difference in the long run will make such a big difference. If you do that, instead of scrolling, instead of wasting time, instead of procrastinating, instead of, whatever else you do to pass time by, right? So if you make use of your surroundings and the time that you have and the breaks that you're given, you can really maximize your results without actually spending any extra time doing anything, or preparing for anything. You can already make use of the things you have and what's going on around you. So you go for those 20-minute walks after you eat a meal. Park slightly further away when you go shopping. Go ahead and walk to work if it's close by. Cycle if it's slightly further, right? If all those things are possible, those are all questions you have to ask yourself, right? Because without actually asking yourself, you're always going to, do whatever's the most convenient, the most easy to do. But if you can be intentional and start being more in tune with the time that you have throughout your day, the opportunity will sort of create itself, and then you can start implementing and adding things wherever you feel necessary, wherever you feel like you can. And something that is extremely important, okay, for you high performers, for you guys working long hours, and if you just want to be in the top 1% in general, all of those guys are prioritizing their nutrition heavily, right? And I'm talking about eating the right foods. A lot of people try and say calories in, calories out when it comes to getting in shape and fitness, but it's like, although that's true when it comes to, the amount of weight you gain, whether you're, cutting, bulking, whatever you're trying to do, that the quality of food you're eating plays a significant role as well, because that's what's going to allow you to build more muscle mass. That's what's going to prevent brain fog. That's what's going to keep your energy levels high. That's what's going to regulate your body, right? Regulate your mind, because if you want to actually perform at the highest level, from your career, right, and the standards that you have for yourself, you need to eat the right foods, because that makes a difference not only here, but here, right? It just makes a significant difference overall. So make sure you're eating the right foods, okay? Because that's something that a lot of guys miss, and a lot of guys who do take fitness seriously, I feel like nutrition is the thing that falls last, right? But if you can fix that early on, you will get ahead of most people. You'll feel better, you'll perform better, and your testosterone levels will be better. You're going to build more muscle mass. Everything in your life is just going to improve. Building muscle is easier, losing fat's easier. It has a knock-on effect to all situations. And whenever you see guys who are, will tell you, oh, I've been in the gym 3 years, I've been training hard, doing everything right. And it's like, why do you still look the same? And they will tell you, they'll be like, oh, I don't know why I look the same. But when you see those guys, it all comes down to their nutrition, right? It's all nutrition, it's all habits, it's all what they do outside of the gym. Because I say this so many times, but it's like when it comes to the gym, there's only so much you can actually do, right? There's compound movements, there's training with proper form and intensity, and staying consistent. Once you've pretty much mastered that and you're already building momentum, the only thing you can actually control outside of that is your nutrition, right? The habits you have for yourself outside of the gym. Because we all know going to the gym and doing more volume and going to the gym more doesn't equal more growth, more results, right? It all comes down to your habits and the decisions that you make over a period of time, right? And your nutrition is a big factor for that. And sort of little tips that I have and ways you can implement that into your schedule and your routine is, it will require you to make decisions. It will require some sacrifices. I'm not saying any of this is going to be easy, but it is something that you have to be intentional about if you do want results. And something I will say is that meal prep on the weekends, spend an hour or two prepping for meals in advance, because that way you can eliminate time, potentially money wasted, and even decision fatigue, right? Instead of walking to the nearest fast food restaurant or ordering in. It's a much better alternative, and it serves you and helps you get closer to your goals. And then the next thing you can also do is bring snacks with you that require no washing up, no cooking, no preparation time. So a lot of the time, if you're in the office, if you're not working from home, a lot of people will, just grab the cakes, the biscuits, whatever's being passed around. But if you can be more intentional and think in advance, you can bring Greek yogurt, you can take dates, Brazil nuts, all these sort of snacks that are good for you, but you can just eat them then and there, right? No decision fatigue, no washing up, no extra time wasted, and you're doing yourself a massive favor. So if you can eat those foods, right, it literally takes 1 to 2 minutes to grab, right? And with the Greek yogurt, you can, if you're not going to go ahead and prepare that in the morning and add the certain stuff, you can just eat the Greek yogurt plain, right? But providing you do want a Greek yogurt bowl with the honey, the granola, and all that sort of stuff, you're going to have to either bring those things with you, or you can just make it early in the morning and prepare it, right? But that only takes 2 minutes to make. And decisions like that, taking snacks that require sort of no real thinking, no preparation, can make a big difference. And another tip when it comes to the training side of things, you want to schedule your training sessions, your walks, your meal timings, all of those sort of things into your calendar, right, like their meetings. You want to schedule your training sessions in your calendar like their meetings and block off that period of time. Because if you don't block off that period of time, you're gonna forget, right? The chances are your brain's running at 100 miles an hour. There's loads of tasks and things that you're assigned to do and that you need to complete. So if you don't visibly see in your calendar that there's a time period that's blocked off, you're just going to fill it in with work. You're just going to negotiate with yourself, and realistically, it's not going to get done. Okay, so you need to be intentional and block those time periods out of your calendar and actually put them in, okay? Because that's the only way you're going to keep your promises and actually execute. And you got to understand that in order to build a routine that works specifically for you, it's not something that you can turn around and have completely figured out tomorrow. Like, it does take trial and error. It does take seeing what works and what doesn't for you. It does take being intentional, right? Because if you aren't willing to do those things, you're never going to find out what truly works for you. And at the end of the day, there's not one specific right or wrong way to get in shape. It all comes down to your lifestyle, right? Your needs, your preferences, right? And your schedule. So you have to add things in, figure out what works, test different gym timings, whether you want to train before or after work, see what's best, right? And then once you understand, what you prefer, what you enjoy doing, then you can stick with it and build upon it. Then you can add the new habits. Then you can start doing things that are going to only help you progress further, right? And don't make the mistake, because I've been there, right? Where you tell yourself, oh, okay, I want to get results as quickly as possible. Let me just start adding everything at once. And then before you know it, you've completely overwhelmed yourself with information. You don't know what you're doing anymore. You're just burnt out and exhausted, and you sort of end up giving up in a few days' time. We don't want that. We don't want to waste your time, because you're high performance, right? You can't afford to work and not see results. So you have to be intentional with what you're doing, or you'll just waste your time and then get frustrated for why you're not actually making progress. So that's something you need to very much consider. And by the way, guys, just a little disclaimer. If you guys do want any advice or information, or you have any questions about this video, about how you can structure stuff into your routine as well, or even one-on-one coaching, do check out the description below and send me a message on Instagram. I'm always there. My DMs are always open, and I'm always here to help out as many of you guys as I possibly can, right? So feel free to do that at any time, and I'll get back to you. And the next thing I wanted to address is the misconception that fitness needs to compete against your career, which cannot be further than the truth. A lot of guys think it's one or the other, but in reality, when you have a structure, you know what you're doing, you're building momentum, and you're just in the execution phase. You're just showing up, you're doing exactly what you need to do every single day. You'll soon come to realize not only will you be sharper thinking, right? You're not going to have brain fog. Your standards are going to be higher. You're going to be more precise, more accurate with your decisions, and people are going to respect you more. You're going to have more confidence, and just everything outside of your career and your career in general is going to be improved. And I know some of those things may sound harsh, and a lot of people won't want to hear that, but it is the truth, seriously. And if you aren't in shape right now, you're doing yourself a massive disservice. And it's not something that needs to compete with you ever, because it literally just improves everything. So get that misconception out of your head. And if it ever feels like it is competing and you don't have the time, it's simply because you're trying to do too much. It's simply because you're doing the wrong things. And that's a sign that you need to change something. You need to make it more simple but more effective. That being said, that is pretty much how to continue focusing on your career and being disciplined with your work while still implementing fitness into your schedule and your routine. Like I said before, if you do want one-on-one coaching, do check out the description below. You can DM me the word change. I'll ask you some questions, actually see if you're a good fit and if it makes sense. Or you can skip that part. You can go ahead, check the description below, go ahead and book a call with me if you want to take it straight there and you're serious about investing in yourself, right? And actually doing what's required to get in the best shape possible and actually stay committed to yourself. Okay? I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.